Hey everyone, wanted to do this webinar because we're getting a lot of questions on some of the scholarship and tax credits available to students at private schools or homeschool. So today we've invited Sally Henry. Sally is from ACSTO, which stands for Arizona Christian School Tuition Organization. And what she's going to do is give an overview on the school tuition organization, scholarships, all the scholarships available to students of private schools. Then she's also going to talk about the expanded ESA program. So this was something that happened recently, this past year, where students can get money funded from the state to be used for things like Christian school tuition, or even if you're homeschool, for certain educational expenses. So again, the hope for this webinar is that you get some clarity on what scholarship opportunities or tax credits are available to you and your kids, and also really how do you choose between these, because you cannot use ESA with your school tuition scholarships and tax credits. So really compare and contrast these different options. So turn over to Sally, and I hope this is beneficial to you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jake, and thank you to the Stewardship team for just always caring about parents and families and helping families understand the education system and really what their options are. So I thank you for that. So before we can start talking about which scholarship program should I choose, just really want to review the two different scholarship programs that are available here in Arizona to help families afford to send their child to a private school. The Private School Tax Credit Program has been around for 25 years. School tuition organizations, or STOs, award scholarships to kids at private schools. They are overseen by the Arizona Department of Revenue. They have to follow all the statutory requirements, but they have been providing scholarships to families for a very long time to offset those tuition costs for many, many families. There are actually 4 different scholarship programs within the Private School Tax Credit Program. And so we're going to look at all 4 of those programs today, but students can qualify for each program as long as they meet the qualifications for each one. So it is possible for a student to qualify for to receive multiple scholarships from the STOs. The original and overflow tax credit scholarship are funded by individual taxpayers. They're private donations that taxpayers like you and I get to choose to make. So when we make a donation to ACSTO, we are choosing to use our money to donate to ACSTO instead of making our state tax payment, because it's a dollar-for-dollar tax credit. When donors give, they can choose to recommend a student to be considered for a scholarship. They can identify a school with their donation, or they can just give and know that their donation is going to help scholarship students at a private school. The nice thing is when, again, as a taxpayer, we actually have a say in where our money's going. We're choosing to either pay the state and let the state decide how to spend our money, or we're choosing to donate to ACSTO, and we know exactly where that money is going to help scholarship kids at Christian schools. So the original tax credit scholarship, every K through 12 student enrolled in a private school can qualify for. They just have to apply. Super simple. So we already know that your students qualify for one scholarship with the tax credit scholarship program. The Overflow Tax Credit Scholarship, or also known as the Switcher Tax Credit Scholarship, students do need to meet one of 8 qualifiers in order to receive scholarships from this program. So we're going to take a look at what those qualifiers are. The first one is basically a student that is currently enrolled in a private school, stays continuously enrolled, and has been a recipient of an overflow or corporate scholarship in the past. The next one is your student is enrolled or starting in their kindergarten year. The third one, my student attended an Arizona district or charter school for 90 days or more in the previous year. Number 4, student is a dependent of a member of the U.S. Armed Forces, and there's military orders for them to be here in Arizona. 5, the student is a preschooler and is receiving services from the preschool to meet their disabilities, and they have to have an IEP or an MET from an Arizona public school system. 6 is the student was homeschooled and then immediately prior to enrolling in a private school. Or number 7, the student moved to Arizona from out of state immediately prior to enrolling in a private school. And then the last one is that the student was a recipient of an ESA scholarship, and then they decided to switch to tax credit scholarships. So you only have to meet one of those. About 87% of our student applications qualify for the overflow scholarship. So my guess is more than likely, so does your family. So the other 2 tax credit scholarships, we work with our sister organization, School Choice Arizona, and they provide the 2 corporate tax credit scholarships. So corporations, C Corps, LLCs that file like an S Corp, S Corps, companies that pay premium taxes, banks can all donate to School Choice Arizona, take advantage of that dollar for dollar tax credit just like individuals can, and receive and help scholarship kids at private schools. The donation process is a bit different, but the benefit obviously is the same. So they offer the Disabled Displaced Tax Credit Scholarship, and that is for students that have a disability. So they have an IEP, 504, MET, something from the public school system saying that they need special services or accommodations, or it's for students that are or once were part of the Arizona foster care system. Now, the low-income corporate tax credit scholarship has a 2 qualifying process. So it is needs-based. So the first qualifier is based off of household gross income. So as you can see, this is not really low income. It's low to modest incomes. So a family of 4 whose household gross income is $102,675 or less can qualify for this scholarship. So if you meet the income qualification, the second qualifier, you have to meet one of these 8 qualifiers, which happen to be the same qualifiers as the overflow tax credit scholarship. So if you know that you can qualify for the overflow scholarship, and you meet the income requirements for low income, then you're pretty much going to qualify for this scholarship as well. So we do encourage parents to apply for scholarships, both with ACSTO and School Choice Arizona. Also, look at the school you're looking at. What other STOs do they work with? Make sure you're applying with those STOs as well. When you apply for the original and overflow tax credit scholarship, the application will walk you through as to whether or not you qualify for overflow. So you don't have to submit a second application, one for original and one for overflow. It's all in one application. But overflow tax credit scholarship, a lot of parents get confused about that. And basically, it's just a second tax credit scholarship that students can qualify for. It came into law in 2012, so not every student qualifies for overflow. So for example, my kids never qualified for overflow. They only qualified for original because they were already enrolled in Christian school prior to 2012. So let's talk about the Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA. So the ESA program actually has been around since 2011. However, it was restricted for students that met certain categories. Well, back in July, Governor Ducey signed the Universal ESA Program, which basically opened up the door for every Arizona student to qualify for an ESA. There's no prerequisites, there's no income qualification. Every single student, K through 12, can get an ESA. The ESA program is administered by the Arizona Department of Education. It is funded by state tax dollars. And basically, parents, when they choose the ESA, they are choosing to opt out of the education and the services that the public school system offers and take control over those funds. So parents can use those funds to pay for private school tuition. They can use them to pay for home education and curriculum, tutoring, and so much more. So ESAs fund at a 90% state tax rate. So it's 90% of the state funding that normally would be sent to your district school for your student. And that for kindergartners, for the yearly scholarship, it's anywhere between $4,000 and $4,500. For 1st through 12th grade, it's anywhere from $6,500 to $7,200. Why the difference? Well, Currently, kindergartners in the public school system are only funded at a half-day rate, so that's why the lower amount for kindergartners. And then the amount can vary depending on your school district that you're assigned to and the student's grade level. So the amount does change. So a third grade student may get less or more than a fourth grade student. Now, students that do have an IEP, MET, or 504 plan from a public school system may actually qualify for additional funds as well when they apply for ESA. They just have to provide that documentation when they apply for the ESA. So super important information. Students cannot receive tax credit scholarships and ESA funds at the same time. Regardless of how a parent chooses to spend ESA funds, they cannot use tax credit scholarships too. Parents pretty much have to choose their funding source. Now, the law does not restrict families from using ESA part of the year and then switching to STOs the other part of the year, or vice versa. The law doesn't restrict that. However, we strongly discourage it. It actually does create a lot of work for the school. It creates a lot of work for the STOs, and it is a nightmare too for the ESA program. And a lot of the private schools are choosing to institute policies that basically require a family to choose one or the other for the whole year. They're not going to go back and forth. So what's the difference between the two programs, the tax credit scholarship and ESAs? Well, tax credit scholarships are funded by private donors, whereas the ESA is funded by state tax dollars. STOs are allowed to communicate with the schools. Schools can communicate with the STOs on behalf of the parents. STOs communicate with the schools regarding enrollment statuses, tuition needs, and so forth. Whereas with the Arizona Department of Education, they can only communicate with the parent. They can't provide the school with any information. A school cannot communicate with the Department of Education on the parent's behalf. So that is a little bit different. Both programs require student applications. ESA does require parents to submit their tuition statements to be paid on a monthly or quarterly basis, whereas on the STO side, you apply for the year and tuition scholarships can be sent to the school for your student throughout the year up until tuition costs are met. ESAs are set amounts that may or may not cover tuition in full, whereas with tax credit scholarships, there is the potential that students can receive 100% of their tuition costs covered. So those are the main differences between the two programs. So now the $1 million question: which funding source is the best option for your student? Well, that depends on the cost of tuition and what your family's financial situation is. So you need to keep in mind that funding is per student. So if you have multiple children, you could put one student on ESA and the other student on tax credit scholarship. So there's nothing wrong with maximizing both programs at the same time. Again, it depends on what is your financial situation, what's going to work for your family. So is your student's tuition less than the approximate ESA amount? Yes or no? If it's less than the ESA amount, then ESA may be the way for you to go. You already know what kind of money is coming in. You know that the ESA dollars will cover tuition in full. So the ESA program would be the most effective for you. If your tuition exceeds the approximate ESA dollar amount, then really you need to evaluate, am I able to afford the balance of tuition? Because you as the parent will be responsible for paying what the ESA funds do not cover. So if you can afford the balance of tuition, then great. As a parent, you have a choice. You can use ESA, get that guaranteed money, and then pay the balance, or you can choose to go tax credit scholarships because you may be able to potentially get 100% of your tuition costs covered with tax credits, especially if you have family and friends that are willing to make that tax credit donation, take advantage of that, and recommend your student or students to be considered for scholarships. If you can't afford the balance of tuition, or if you are a family that does meet that corporate qualification, then I strongly encourage you to stick with tax credit scholarships because I believe you will do better with that. The corporate tax credit scholarships can can pay up to $6,100 for K through 12, and I believe it's $8,100 for high schoolers. Doesn't mean you're going to get that max scholarship, but collectively you can get scholarships from multiple STOs to help cover those costs. So if you can't afford tuition, if you meet that corporate qualifier, I strongly encourage you to work with the STOs. So one great thing that ACSTO does is, let's say you choose to use the ESA program. Well, your students can still be considered for scholarships from ACSTO, even though you're using an ESA program. The key is we just can't send those funds to the school to pay for tuition until you're no longer using ESA. So what ACSTO does, we can consider your students for scholarships, we can award your student scholarships, and once you are no longer using ESA, we can send those funds. We actually hold them as in what's called a multi-year scholarship. So in your student's name, so those funds can be used for tuition in future years once you're no longer using ESA. So we do encourage parents that are utilizing the ESA program, work the tax credit program. All you need to do is continuously apply every year with us, stay enrolled in a Christian school that we partner with, and your students can be considered, and we can hold those multi-year funds up until the time you need them. So Christian education is affordable for so many Arizona families. Both these programs, the ESA program and the tax credit scholarship program, is here to help families make the best choice for your students and make it affordable. So if you have the desire to put your child in a private school, go do it, because that's what these programs are here to help you with. ACSTO never wants parents to walk away from the opportunity of going to a Christian school. We exist to make that an affordable option for you. We partner with about 130 Christian schools throughout the state, and about 50 or so of our Christian schools we partner with, their tuition is about the same or less than the approximate average ESA. However, for the schools that have tuition that's higher than that, the ESA is not going to fully cover the tuition, and you do have a potential to get fully funded by tax credit scholarships. But a lot of that depends on, we're donor-based. So what donations do we have coming in for your school? Are you talking to your friends and families about donating and recommending your students? Because that is something that is part of the award process. It's something that is taken into consideration when making scholarship awards. We cannot guarantee donor recommendations, but our selection committee can use that to help them with their award decision. So it is possible that if you have a lot of family and friends that are donating and recommending your students, it is possible that you can get awarded above and beyond tuition. And if that happens, we pay your tuition to the school, and then anything that's over, we hold it again as a multi-year scholarship for those students to be used in future years, because our number one goal is to keep your kids in a Christian school. So what better way to keep your kids in a Christian school than to make sure that there are scholarship dollars that are being awarded to your families. Now, a lot of families, we get a lot of calls and a lot of questions about, hey, what's going to happen to the ESA program? The governor wants to repeal it. Yes, the governor does want to repeal it. However, she can't without the help of the legislature. And right now, our legislative body is pro-school choice. So they're not going to let anything happen to the programs that are out there to help make private education affordable to families and help give families those educational options. However, when the election comes in November 24, it is possible that if we get a legislative body elected that is anti-school choice, and obviously we'll still have the governor that's against a lot of these school choice options, it is very possible that both the ESA program and the STO program, the tax credit scholarship program, can face an attack and legislation that harms both programs. So it is super important to stay in touch and stay in tune on who's running for office. And if school choice is important to you, we encourage you to support and vote for those elected officials that will support your choice and your right to choose the best education for your kids. So if you have questions and you want to learn more about the ESA program, visit the Arizona Department of Education website. It is azed.gov/ESA. Give them a call. Right now, there's just under 51,000 students that are utilizing this ESA program. So it went from 11,000 student membership, so to speak, in August, and has now increased to close to 51,000 in just a few short months. To my knowledge, their applications for the 23-24 school year will be out, I've heard, anywhere from late April to mid-May. So you cannot apply yet for the 23-24 school year. So keep an eye on their website for that application so that way you can apply if you are choosing to go the ESA route. To learn more about tax credit scholarships, you can visit acsto.org. We do actually parent workshops via Zoom every single week. The QR code's on your screen, or you can visit our website and it's under the Parent tab. But we are here to serve you. Give us a call at 480-820-0403 for any questions. We have our customer service team. We actually do answer our phone Monday through Friday. We are open 9 to 4. We are closed for the lunch hour from 12 to 1. But we are here to serve you and to help your families understand how they can afford a Christian education. And give us a call if you have questions because we're here to help you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sally. That was super helpful. So if you know someone else that would benefit from this, look at that original email you got from us with the instructions on how to sign up to receive the webinar. Just go ahead and forward that to them, and they can sign up, and we will forward the webinar link to them. So Sally gave a few different resources and ways to reach out to them directly. If you have questions, you can also reach out to us here at Stewardship. Send us an email or give us a call. We might be able to help or at least point you in the right direction. So again, thanks for watching, and let us know if you have any questions.